When the world wearies and society fails to satisfy, there is always the garden, mini Armenier. We all want to make a serene, beautiful space to escape to, not only for our mental well being, but to help support our earth. But we often fail and give up after killing multiple plants, wasting a lot of time and a lot of money. I'm Jenny Spencer, and I've been in that place more times than I can count. I'm a certified Tarrant County Master Gardener through the Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Office, and I have 7 years of experience with native plant gardening. If you have some curiosities, but also hesitancies about becoming a gardener, perhaps because the last attempt at growing exotic, non native plants was an utter failure, the secret to sprouting a green thumb is growing the right plants in their own home turf. So, what are native plants? And how can planting a native garden benefit you and our earth? And how can you get started? Native plants are species that are naturally adapted to grow in certain regions' climate conditions without human intervention over thousands of years, per the Native Plant Society of Texas. They also provide a sustainable habitat for our pollinators, our birds, and other wildlife. They help provide the food that they need to survive. And when I mentioned human intervention, according to the Virginia Department of Conservation and Recreation, European settlers introduced non native plants to North America in the 17th and 18th centuries, some intentionally for agriculture and some by accident through packing material, livestock, and ship contact. 30,000 species of non native plants have been introduced to the United States since the time of Columbus. When native plants are not used in a healthy ecosystem, it leaves room for worsening environmental concerns. Flourishing plant pathogens, depleted soil, an increase in pollution, and a decrease in our pollinators. Living beings on this earth will not be able to exist in these conditions. So, for example, Texas has 5 growing regions. And if we focus on diverse mixture of native perennials and grasses and shrubs and trees for our year-round wildlife to preserve our ecoregions, then we will have a very diverse and thriving ecosystem that we can thrive in ourselves. This is an example of an invasive non-native plant that we battle. This is a picture from our garden in the Southwest Subcourthouse in Tarrant County. We have a weed called bindweed. You can see at the very bottom of that picture. If we don't stay ahead of it, it will just consume all of our native plants. That is a goldenrod in the background, and if we had let that go for the next month, it would have just completely consumed it. So, how can planting a native garden benefit you? It seems like there's a lot to cover, but if you just spend a little bit of time just researching, it'll provide a very low maintenance garden for you. It'll also save money because all these plants are very adapted to grow in drought like conditions in our climate here in Texas. And when you do have a biodiversity type garden. They will also help prohibit some undesirable weeds from growing. It'll also help reduce pesticide and fertilizer use. And overall, because it is such a low maintenance garden, because it just naturally grows, you'll feel very, like a very successful gardener, and it will just look really good for your area. In urban areas, 25% of the water supply is used for landscaping and garden irrigation. And that's due to high water demanding landscapes, according to the Texas A&M AgriLife Extension. When planting non-native plants, you begin to keep battling them because you're trying to just keep them alive when they're not supposed to be. They require more water than our climate provides, and so you have to do a lot of supplemental watering. Before I knew what native plants were, I learned over the years that no matter how much time or how much money I invested into these non-native plants, they just would not thrive. Many corporate-owned gardening departments, they sell ornamental plants that are not like they're not meant to be in our area. They're more so meant to be in like rainforests, for instance. These plants can't tolerate our heat or our cold winters. Our culture is fixated on what we can take from our land, and we've forgotten about what we need to give back in return. If we continue to strip natural resources from our own for our own gain and survival, the long-term effects will impact our planet and its inhabitants in negative ways. Once you embrace our responsibilities to our Earth, you'll begin to see the benefits of reciprocity. Like Robin Wall says in Braiding Sweetgrass, it's not the land that has been broken, but our relationship to it. And how do you get started? You can just start small. You can start in just some pots on your porch. If you have a very small garden bed, you can just start by planting a few seeds, getting some. If you go to some garden centers that have native plants, just plant a few native plants there and see how they grow, learn from them. According to the Texas A&M's EarthKind initiative, preparing your soil is the most important thing. It's vital to a healthy garden. Utilizing compost in your beds and your pots, it'll help reduce the need for those fertilizers and prevent diseases. And it will also help with water retention because it allows those root systems to penetrate deeper into the soil. If you find a local plant shop that sells native plants, they can generally also educate you on how to grow it, what they'll need. You can follow some Facebook groups, some Instagram accounts that are focused on native plant gardening. They are very educational. But you can also volunteer some time in a garden if you would like to. There's a lot of master gardeners that will gladly give you the education that they have. That's what their job is. We volunteer a lot of time in gardens all over the state. You can volunteer some time in them. You'll learn a lot and be able to meet that need. And you can also build a wild prairie. This is a picture of my prairie space in the very back of my yard. I just created a no-mow zone basically and threw down a lot of native Texas seeds, and it just took off and the pollinators went crazy. If it just makes sense to create a native garden because the benefits are endless. So things that we've covered today, what a native plant is and how these native plants will benefit you and our earth, and also how to get a native garden started. As the sign says here, if something's not eating your plants, then you do not have a healthy garden. A garden will not only heal our earth, but it will also heal you.